Hi everybody, welcome back to Speaking of Cocktails. I'm David and we're back at my home bar today. So it's getting a little chilly here in the Midwest, so I thought it would be fun to make a mulled wine, more specifically a Gluehwein, which is a German mulled wine that I've actually made in the past, my version of at least. Today my guest is my buddy Ryan. He is actually the founder and president of the Indiana Wine Club. Ryan actually even gave me some pointers as to how he wanted me to lean some of those flavor profiles and the types of wines. So for the Gluehwein, you're gonna take a full bottle of a dry red wine, so that's 750 milliliters of wine, and add that to a pot with 3/4 of a cup of water, 20 cloves. For me, I did a cinnamon stick of about 3.5 inches long, and 1 star anise. So you're gonna put that on the stove on a very low heat, below a simmer. Do not let this simmer or boil for sure, for about an hour to let that reduce a bit. And once we're ready, we're gonna take that off the heat and add 1.5 ounces of orange liqueur. I used Cointreau here. 3.5 ounces of simple syrup, and 3.5 ounces of a spiced rum. I used Kraken here. So the build for the Gluehwein is about as simple as it gets, folks. We already did all the legwork. So all we're gonna do, add it to a mug. And we're just gonna garnish with an orange slice. And that's my take on a German Gluehwein. All right, everybody, so we're here with Ryan and we're here with the Gluehweins. I have never been to Germany. I just have a couple of friends that used to live in Germany. I sort of experimented with this a couple of years back and it ended up being okay. So I hope this kind of scratches that wine itch for you, but to me it's still a cocktail.
I'm very excited. Very, very excited.
Have you ever had Gluehwein before?
I've never had Gluehwein before, but I believe you had Argentina Malbec in here.
Yeah, so you requested an Argentinian Malbec. Any kind of like dry red would work for this, and that's what you asked for, so I went for it. Why'd you go Argentinian? Why Malbec?
It's got a good enough dark fruit forwardness to it with that hint of vanilla to help sweeten it up, but it does also have that tobacco-iness that I know especially a lot of bourbon and whiskey drinkers enjoy as well too. If you have, a bourbon and whiskey with a cigar, someone that does enjoy a darker cocktail as well too, it has some of those same flavor notes.
Being that it's kind of a drier wine, plays well with the spices that we added to it, and also the spiced rum. I like to do that just to kind of amp up those spices a bit more, because it doesn't simmer for too long. You definitely get those flavors in it, but if you bring it a little bit more forward with some rum, I think that just kind of adds to the depth of it. I hope you dig it, man.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.
Sorry if that big honkin' orange is in the way of your face. I wish I had bigger mugs here, people, but this is what I got so you can see it, okay? So what do you think? He's doing the wine thing, everybody.
That is lovely.
Thank you.
It reminds me of, my mom used to have this bowl of potpourri every fall. That's like the pine cones and the orange, but it's so palatable. It's so ironic too because wine is not supposed to get warm. It actually ruins the wine. It does kind of remind me a bit like an oolong tea, almost like a chai tea.
Yeah, I could see that. Before you add the simple syrup to it and everything, especially, those drier notes really do come through, especially as you warm them up. I could totally see that working even if you subbed out oolong tea for the wine,
right?
Like that's not a bad idea.
But I'm also getting the acidity of the wine as well too. It's starting to, it does have that dryness, kind of dries your mouth out the way that Malbec is supposed to. But that orange gives it just that little elongated zip that just hangs on there until the end, and it just almost like a palate cleanser for the wine at the end. That's wonderful.
Most that I have found recipes for this, and everybody that I've talked to that's from Germany, kind of says that you're supposed to simmer it with the oranges. Now to me, I've done a lot of hot toddies and some other things, and I find that when you do citrus, a lot of times just all the bitterness gets pulled out of it. So I like to add it at the end, and then also just doing that orange liqueur with the Cointreau is the way to get that orange flavor without having to even making this more bitter or anything that it already is, or drier or anything, while still having that orange flavor. The garnish, that's just gonna bring those notes a little more forward because it's hitting your nose.
For sure. So wine is really meant to pair with food. What would you pair this with?
This to me says the holidays. This says Christmas, cold weather out. The first thing that comes to mind is just like Christmas cookies or sugar cookies.
Dude, I was thinking the exact same thing. Something like a good Christmas dessert, or I almost think of something maybe like a bread pudding. with this
Ooh.
too. Yeah.
That could totally work.
This gets better with every sip. As it goes, it kind of gets a little bit sweeter without losing that full body flavor of what Malbec delivers.
I actually just used plain white sugar for this one. You could definitely go with the turbinado sugar if you want to go Demerara for some more of that richness. Dry red wines are already so rich that you don't necessarily need to go that way. I mean, it wouldn't be bad to play into it, but even when we're adding a rich rum to it as well, that can sometimes be a little bit overkill, right? So it's like pare it back a little bit, and that's my one way of paring it back. Probably not enough because everything else is very bold in this.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, this is just wonderful. This reminds me of something like an oolong or a chai tea, but it's also, I feel like a lot of port wine lovers would love this because port's super thick, very, very dense. It comes in just those little glasses. This is for anybody that's even wanting to kind of transition or kind of want like a gateway wine into port wine. This would be great, especially sitting around the fire, hanging out.
I've had some port wines, the great dessert wine or whatever, and that definitely has a port wine like mouthfeel. It's that thickerness, maybe a little bit of sweetness, right? Not quite to a port, right? If somebody likes port, that'd be a good way to go into something drier.
I'd be curious on how long this would last, being warm with it being wine, because I feel like this would be great to have like in a punch bowl somehow for the outdoor winter party around the campfire around the Christmas time. I've been outside in negative 40-degree weather out there, and this is no joke, and this would warm me right up.
I've only ever made this and it has been gone right away. This is something that doesn't last long, especially when you have a couple of friends over.
Yeah.
So anytime I've made it, it was gone that evening. So I would be curious about the shelf life of that, though. That's interesting. How long could you leave it out, right? This would probably just stay warm for a party, but leave it at that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Ryan, so if you could change something as a wine drinker, your palate's a bit different, and I think we're kind of shooting towards different things or noticing different things in our beverages. So something I could do to improve this, or maybe conversely, what could I do to make this more palatable for your average everyday wine drinker?
Yeah, great question. Rum is rum. There's really no way around that. So, if you maybe want to tame it a little bit more, maybe just kind of back down on the rum a little bit. Or if you're not a very big wine person, you want something that's a bit more of a tamed wine, maybe go for something like a Pinot Noir. If you maybe want to go a little bit sweeter, I maybe would point to like a Sangiovese, that typically from Italy has a bit of like a yogurty texture to it. I was nervous about the orange too, because it's, you've got the bitterness of the rum, the dryness of the wine, and then you have the acidity of the orange. You would think it would be cut all the way through, but it really doesn't do that. So I wouldn't change anything, at least about the orange.
To play against the vanilla notes, even maybe a vanilla syrup in this could be a nice little, maybe I'll play around with that next year. Who knows? That's kind of an interesting idea, because I think that would totally work in moderation.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe like half simple syrup, half of the vanilla syrup.
Yeah, and even like if you're just kind of going to this, maybe a little bit of whipped cream on top there, just to add as a little party favor, if you will.
For the time of year, it's so reminiscent of like a boozy hot chocolate.
Yeah, for sure.
That this could play well, if you have a party with kids and adults, this could be for the adults, hot chocolate could be for the kids, but if you want to add a little whipped cream to it, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Well, let me ask you, David. You're definitely more of a cocktail person than I am. I do enjoy a good cocktail. You've made me quite a few.
I have.
As a non-wine lover like myself, if you will, what would you change about it?
I would say I like wine, it's just not my go-to.
Okay.
I'm definitely a cocktail guy. Just like I'd think wine is your go-to over a cocktail most of the time. Anybody who's watched this channel long enough knows that I like things pretty boozy. So I would even take the rum up a bit.
Okay.
Bring that a little more forward, because this is very, very much wine to me. Definitely leans more towards wine than a cocktail for me. But at the same time, I make this almost every year around the holidays. Yeah, it's my go-to kind of warm, fuzzy hug for the holidays, right? There aren't a lot of great hot cocktails. You have your hot toddy, which I love. That's also when I'm sick. That's my go-to. But that's kind of the only one that's like a staple. Maybe we can make this a staple. Maybe we can make this more popular, because I actually think this is great.
This is great. The wonderful thing about wine is that to me it's the perfect balance of art and science and nature. There is the science to taking the grapes and taking that wonderful vine-based fruit and turning it into something, but there's also the uncontrollables of what nature has to deliver to it as well, too. So my warm go-to drink has always been tea. So I wonder if something like a peppermint Echinacea elderflower in there would be interesting in there too. Just like that peppermint to kind of give it that after lingering alongside the orange, because a lot of Echinacea and elderflower tea have a lot of ginger, orange, and peppermint in there as well too.
Right.
For somebody that isn't a huge wine or rum drinker, that as well too. Peppermint's really good on the gut and on the digestive system.
Absolutely.
So it actually makes this a bit literally more digestible.
See, from the bartender side of things, a little mintier, a little like got that little bite of like that echinacea, and to me that says Amaro. Maybe even a little bit of Amaro in here would be an interesting thing. And Amaro, when it comes down to it, is technically a wine. You're adding wine to wine. I don't know if that's bad form. I don't know if that's.
It's probably a good excuse to just add more rum.
There you go.
At that point to help balance it out.
I like this, and I hope this was something that the wine enthusiasts can enjoy as well, but still be a cocktail, right?
I'm a fan. If you can make me a jug of this before I go, that'd be great.
We got you a growler of that, you know. All right, well, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much, Ryan, for being here and doing something a little bit different that we haven't tried here, you know, leaning into the wine. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers to you. I'm trapped, help! Ah! And then the police show up.
Oh no, with his
Neighbor,
bird.
he's just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Brings out his parrot, and then like the parrot starts doing. There's good 4 police officers out there because he thought he was holding someone hostage. Internet gold. This, I feel like this is gonna be like a true crime B-roll for a real true crime thing.
Oh god, wrong pipe.
Got any whipped cream?
Sure don't.
Oh well. You get a girlfriend then.
That's okay. You married people have it easy, man. You don't even have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, well, no, it's
Because then you got one person who's already, you know, pledged to put up with your crap.
pledged, trapped, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, hey, you know, tomato, potato.
No, my wife is lovely. I love you, babe. I feel like if I drink the other half too quickly, I'm going to regret it.
I'm thinking of that Campbell's soup commercial where the kid runs in as the snowman, but then he drinks Gluehwein instead, and there you go.
But yeah, what the kid was like 8.
Yeah.